Hello and welcome to Koodcast, the podcast that aims to give you a glimpse into the world of Kood coding schools. Join us for interviews with school alumni, current students, industry visionaries and other fascinating guests. I'm your host, Priit Koff. Enjoy! In this Koodcast episode, we'll learn about what is happening over at Sisu in Finland in an interview with Sisu CEO Nykänen. We are joined by Jõhvi students Giordano and Hanna, who also happen to lead the school's student council. And our final guest today will be industry veteran Kütt, who shares his memories of working at Skype and his thoughts on software developers and AI. Enjoy! Good morning and a very warm welcome to Laura, who's joining us from across the pond in Finland. So hello Laura, welcome to Koodcast, and before we proceed with your official job title and everything else, please give us a few words about your background.
About my background, for now, I'm head of the school of Sisu here in Finland. But about my background, I've been working before as a business consultant here locally and also doing some business projects to national companies all over the Finland. Before that, I'm from the countryside. I started my career path from countryside jobs, and then I moved to Sweden. I studied there. I was working at the Embassy of Finland in Stockholm. So that was really part of my career path so far. And that's basically my business background. And now I live here in Kuopio in the eastern part of Finland and really happy to be here with you.
Okay, but what about Sisu? So we have Jõhvi here in Estonia, and we tend to call these coding schools in general, but Sisu, where does that name come from to begin with, and how did they all get started?
About the name, that is actually quite a fun thing to analyze now afterwards, because Sisu was kind of a name of the project among the founders, but it wasn't something that we actually decided to keep on. It's just, someone randomly thought that Sisu, its translation is maybe in English grit. And I think Estonian people know some Finnish as well. So Sisu is some kind of a mentality word of how Finns usually do the business and how much do we care each other and the motivation level that we have when we start to do new things. So Sisu was the first working name of the project, and then it just, stayed alive. And here we are. The name of our school is Sisu. And the first part of the name is, of course, evolved from Jõhvi because we are partners and we're working under your brand, so to speak. But and now I totally forgot the question you asked.
Well, the question is very simple. How did Sisu actually get started? Who were the founders? And we know the name, we know where it came from, but the rest of the school, where did that idea come from?
Yeah. So basically, let's say that 4 or 3 years ago, 8 founding members, and I could actually share a bit of those backgrounds. We have 8 founding members of Sponsor and Normet from manufacturing industry here on the region. Then we have stakeholders such as Novapolis and Kuopio Chamber of Commerce, who really thought that we need more innovative business ideas to the region here in the eastern part of Finland. They came together. Then we recruited OP Financial Group, one of the biggest banking unit in Finland. Istuki from the health sector, Upper Savo Vocational School, such as the school operator here in the region, among us, that helped us to build student benefits collaboration with us. And then also my personal service that will help us out to deliver the talents that the market needs. So that kind of business community came together with the vision that Finland needs more competitive advantage when it comes to tech skills. On the region, we would need, or the need would actually be like, let's say, 5,000 new tech talents in the near future. Of course, the market has changed a bit, but I think that still the strong vision of doing something really innovative together in order to meet the talent shortage in the future on the region is still there. So that was the narrative of the founding members. And also, like, maybe the mission has evolved a bit. Now we have seen that the God Sisu story is something that actually attracts more people also outside of our home region here in Northern Savo area. And we have, like, the students and the partners we have now, we have total like 15 partner companies now involved, and also over 200 students at the moment, and all of those are spread really widely all over the Finland. So the founding mentality and the narrative has evolved during the years, I would say, but the community based and innovative mindset still exists there. Yeah,
But why Kuopio?
I think the Kuopio is something that we have really good, business community here when it comes to innovations, new funding possibilities. And we actually had KPY, Ponsse, and Normet. I think those were the three first companies from our funding members that were there at the first place. This was like their idea, their vision that they want to educate tech talents straight to their own needs. And then Jõhvi came to the picture somehow. Someone knows someone, and then this group of companies were having a trip to Jõhvi, and they get to know each other, and they found out that why should we figure it out the new concept all by ourselves when we have really working methods and nice concept over the sea. So let's do this together with Jõhvi people.
Okay, and do you use the same setup as in Jõhvi, or have you somewhat amended it, adjusted it to your own needs? And do you use the same setup in the sense of that you have a dormitory and people come there from all over the country, or is it everything online, or do you have a hybrid system of that? What's the setup like?
Yeah. Let's say that we are two different units. We have same kind of similarities, but still the basic idea is there. But the changes we don't have dormitories here. Our students are spread all over Finland, as we said. A lot of them is studying hybrid mode and remote mode. We have campus and premises in Kuopio, and some students want to really or prefer to study here as well. And also we organize a lot of different kind of events here, so the premises are super alive, even though the people are studying quite usually or quite often remotely. So no dormitories. The curriculum is basically the same because we are under the same platform. Of course, Jõhvi has made a good job to do some Sisu brand image there on the platform, that our students really feel that they are studying at Sisu, even though we are under the same brand umbrella. I think the methods are basically the same. We use the peer-to-peer learning methods as well. So every time one of our students submit the code, it will go to the two other students and they will give feedback to you on my work. So the teamwork methods, peer-to-peer, no teachers, really tight and good communication and collaboration with the partner companies exist here as well. So yeah, basically quite same, but the tiny differences there is, of course.
Same, but different, as always.
Yeah.
But now you've had two batches or cohorts who have actually graduated from your school. What has been the initial feedback so far, and how satisfied are you with the results to this day?
I think we are in the middle of the journey still, even though we have two batches, but the first one started 1 year ago, and the program is 2 years. So now we have the first batch is in the middle of their studies, so to speak. So the basic studies are now done, and now they are moving towards specializational year. And now they are in the moment that they want to meet the partner companies even more to find out what should they choose on their specializational year, what is their personal career, goals or path to dream, so to speak. The second batch just started their studies. So we are still, like, let's say, in a positive waiting moment to see how things will go in the future. But of course, even though the first batch is in the middle of their program studying journey, we already have 6 students got employed. And one of the main partner companies we have, Ponsse, they hired 3 of those. And we are now having a really good impact, or let's see, how do the employers see our students and the tech talents, what skills they have, what kind of, problem solvers Code Sisu will build, and how these peer-to-peer methods actually prepare people to the real working life environments. So yeah, we are, waiting the results and living in a really excitement time at Code Sisu.
Exciting times indeed. What about the age demographics of your students? Is it mostly young people, or do you have more, let's say, seasoned veterans who are reskilling themselves, or how does the demographic age look like in your school?
The average Sisu student is actually 33 years old with some educational background. I think like 50% of our students, they have upper secondary degree or so, or higher educated people, and most of our students, they are career changers. I wouldn't say, or maybe reskilling, but like they are those who completely want to shift the boat to the different direction. So we have previous nurses, doctors, entrepreneurs, teachers, you name it, from really different kind of industry. And that is really something that we are, proud of. That's almost any kind of background fits to Code Sisu. And it's more like you need to be really motivated to find your new career path. And I think Code Sisu methods can actually offer a really good option to career changers to find the path. Yeah.
Sure. What about the greatest challenges that you've had to face so far?
I would say everything. No, not everything. The main challenge is, I would say that, well, every time you try out new things, you are in an environment that no one knows how this should be done and what is the result. We have really strength founding members, vision, target goals. And like my role as the head of the school and the CEO here is to make sure that we execute the plan properly and we hit the target goals. And of course, we want to make the reputation of Code Sisu really great. And, among all of this, when you're doing the big innovation, new environment with new people, with basically everything is so new. So of course the managing part is sometimes a bit tricky. You should really know what to focus first. You need to be a good manager to prioritize things. Of course, one thing that is really relevant for us is the market relevant business model we're testing here. So of course, when the founders started to build the Code Sisu on the paper, and I was also planning that business concept then as a business consultant on my previous job, we had some kind of idea how this could work, how much money we need, what is the end result, what is the end goal, and what kind of people wants to apply to our school. But now, like 2 years later, we are in a totally different market in situation, and we need to kind of test the business model idea again. And I think that is the most challenging part, of course. Some tiny details when it comes to leading a really tight team and so on. It's also challenging. But I think the main and the most challenging one is to lead the big picture into the reality in a way that the targets are met.
You mentioned targets there. Can you elaborate a little bit on what your targets actually are?
Yeah, of course. We had targets, let's say, in numbers of how much founders we need, how much students we need, and how many of those we should actually support to deliver to the job market. Let's speak in that way. And I think I forgot to mention at the beginning, when we founded the Code Sisu, the main financier was also European Union. And this was something that they wanted to support us to really hype up the eastern part of Finland's competitiveness in the tech market. So in terms of those targets, of course, we want to deliver the amount of students we need. So we want to graduate or help graduate, let's say, 100 students per year to the job market. And we definitely want to support those to get employed. even in our partner companies network or other side of our partner companies network. But that is maybe the one target that everybody is actually waiting for. I am, our team, our students, the partner, the media, the market here is really waiting that how much students we can actually deliver to the job market. And that's the main target we have right now.
I think we'd like to know a little bit more about the job markets and the IT market in Finland in general as well, because we do have a general understanding about what goes on in Finland, but it's still difficult to assess the situation from this end. So if you could just describe the job markets a little bit and what kind of companies are the main employers and what are their needs and expectations. So just some information about that would be very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, this is actually quite wide question, and let's see if I can, narrow it a bit. But I don't know if Estonia has the same situation that in Finland, that in general the job market is a bit sticky for all kind of jobs and industry, but especially in the tech industry, I think the trend and global challenges really affects on how our companies in Finland is doing right now. And the trend is not so positive at the moment. Also, there's so many people, out there looking for a job, and the competition is really high. And this is something that our students, every time I talk with them, I feel and I hear the frustration they have that if I graduate today, how is the job market? There is so much competition, so little junior developers or developers roles out there open at the moment. So yeah, it's really tough situation. But yeah, however, I think like in Finland that it could be said that we have seen some positive light here. We have the big companies such Nokia, Elisa, F-Secure, Volt, and those kind of companies, the great success stories, and they have published like big plans of investment in the future, and they are recruiting really hard at the moment. So I think those, tiny positive lights is actually really nice to have, and it's really waited. I think everybody is waiting that when we can really invest for the new tech transformations inside of the companies, because those lead to the fact that the companies are really looking for good employees, and then it's called Sisu's time to shine. But definitely at the moment, the market is a bit sticky, but let's hope that the future will look a bit different.
Well, we're all hoping that the future will be a little bit brighter, but if we now think ahead a little bit, let's say 3 to 5 years, where do you see Sisu in that time period? And yourself?
Well, I've always been like super optimistic person. So I would definitely say that bright and shine. The future is ours, of course. But definitely it requires hard work, a lot of good work, and braveness to test out and maybe encourage to give up on some kind of plan. If we used to have a plan A and we see that this is not working at this time, we really have to be brave enough to test again and pivot again. And that is the success story which can lead to really great results. But in 3 to 5 years, I would say that we have 3 batches at the same time going on as a student volume. We have doubled the partner network site. Definitely, that is definitely one key to the success, that we have also the partner company network that is flourishing. And Sisu could be there as a bridge between the employee and the employer side, and kind of encourage people to rethink about the education system in a big picture, because this kind of a non-teacher environment where peer-to-peer learning happens and students teaches each other, it's really, really interesting concept in a wider picture as well, when we are talking about the cost side of the school operator as well. So I hope that Sisu, of course, together with Jõhvi and other coding schools as well abroad and in Finland, that we could actually look this idea that how could we meet the market needs more efficiency way. So hopefully Sisu could be that kind of an actor on the market in the future as well.
And yourself, your plans for the next 5 years?
My plans for the next 5 years.
Where do you
Oh
see
my
yourself
God.
in 5 years' time? It's a classic question. I always
Where
ask it.
I would say that I would love to be connected to God's network somehow. I would definitely hope that we could, tie our school collaboration and we could do collab even more together, that we could really speak about the coding schools network. And I would love to see myself somewhere there, as a daily operator to do a good national, international collaboration with the schools. Yeah, that would be great.
Nice. Do you think there's space for another coding school in Finland besides called Sisu?
We have other coding schools as well in Finland, and Supercell and Hive, they have done a really great job before us, and I think they launched their school, let's say, a couple of years ago, and they are really, really great. And we're doing some collaboration with them as well. And then we have in Åland, we have Grit Lab as well. So we are not the first ones, of course. So I would say that probably, yeah, it depends so much on the fact that how the market goes, how is the investment capability of the companies at the national level, and how does that affect to the need of new tech talents. But definitely, I would say that the methods we have here and the cost structure is something that we should definitely build more.
Okay, well, let me ask this in a different way then. Do you think there's space for another coding school in Finland besides the one you have in Kuopio?
Oh, perfect. I heard you totally wrong.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
But now I hear you. Definitely. Yeah. Why not? I have to admit that because the code Sisu is so like my own, working table is like violet purple and code Sisu brand and code Sisu operations. So definitely that is my focus right now. But let's say in the future, why wouldn't it be? Like, of course, that would be actually quite fun to build more code schools, yeah, here in Finland.
Excellent. Well, really, it looks and sounds like the future is very bright in Finland, and I do hope that you are contributing to that in a massive way. So I wish you nothing but the best of luck, and I thank you very much for this interview that we just had, and I hope to talk to you again someday. Have a good time.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
It was a pleasure. Speak soon. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Hello and welcome to the studio. I'm joined here by two lovely students from called Jõhvi. I'm talking to Hanna and to Giordano.
That's correct.
So why don't we get started by introducing yourselves first? So Hanna, let's go to you.
Well, I'm Hanna, and currently I'm studying in Jõhvi. Before that, I briefly studied architecture, but I took a break from that to work and do other things. So I kind of wanted to get back into architecture and interior design, but since the school wouldn't take me back, I decided to try something completely different. I had a friend who tried out the selection sprint. It wasn't for him, but he recommended that I try it. So I tried it. It seemed like programming was interesting to me, so I chose to go to the school.
Okay. And you are from Estonia?
I am from Estonia, yes.
Thank you for that. And you, I take it, are not from Estonia. You've actually traveled quite a distance to get here.
Yeah, I'm originally from Venezuela. So it's like 1,800 kilometers, if I'm not mistaken, from here.
Probably closer to a few more.
Yes. On plane, I guess.
Yes, indeed.
I was living on Orlando, Florida for 5 years. I used to work for a startup there. And one day they wanted to expand to Europe. And they were like looking for places to do so. So they ended up coming to Estonia because they saw like one ad of what if Tesla was a country, That was really popular with some people, I guess. So we ended up coming here. I was the first of the company to arrive to Estonia, so I didn't know anything, and I didn't knew anybody here. And the company came after. The company went under, and I stayed. So After that, I stayed here. I worked for some overseas companies, mostly doing marketing and design. And I wanted to kind of shift, especially because I don't work with Estonian companies, and I love the country and I love the people, but I don't work for Estonian companies. I love the culture, the startup culture, like everything. And I was like, I still have some years here. I should try to make it work, right? So I randomly got an ad, like an Instagram, and I was like, I mean, I always liked coding. Before I became a designer, I studied on a coding school in my country, but I left it because I was more on the creative side. But again, now coding is so different from what it was before that it makes more sense to me. I have been working with startups. I love, creating tools that people can use and make better. So I was like, yeah, I want to be on the technical side of it. I don't want to be doing like this anymore. So I started in sprint. I put the sprint before the batch. So I want to do the 3 weeks and then start the next week. I don't want to wait.
Okay.
And I did the sprint, and then I got to school. The next week we started. I met a lot of people, like cool people like Hanna here, for example, and a lot of cool people there. And I feel like it's been a really great journey. So we are both from the 5th batch.
Okay.
So that were like kind of new. That we started
6-7 months ago, I think.
Okay.
Yes.
So you actually had some prior knowledge of coding and the technical skills that are necessary for that. But Hanna, you didn't have any
No.
contact with coding.
I tried in 2019. I tried a little bit. I didn't get far, but I still remembered some things, so that like made the experience a little easier. But I think the thing that mostly helps me is that I kind of like math. I like logical thinking. I like puzzles, and because of that, I learn coding faster. And it helps me along. And this is also why it's like interesting. I am usually more interested in art and design and have always been more interested in that. So in the future, I would also like to combine those two, like programming and the desire for design that I have. But right now, I'm focusing on learning one skill and then to the next.
What have you learned about yourself so far during these 5 or 6 months?
That keeping the motivation up is kind of hard, in the sense that there is a project that I'm working on, and if the project is interesting, it is easy to move forward with it. But inevitably, even if the project is interesting, there will come like some sort of a plateau where like you have to decide where to move forward from that. You have maybe done all the basic requirements, and there are some things that have been pushed forward, and like procrastinating on some issues, like pushing through that plateau and keeping the motion going is the thing that is, I think, kind of the hardest thing. Yeah.
That's what we keep hearing. Self-motivation is key. How to make that work. But what about you, Giordano?
Yeah, I feel like in my case, I have been maybe afraid a little bit of leadership positions, even though I'm somehow getting inclined to end up in leadership positions. So I always said no to it, and I stopped doing that. So from here, I have been saying more yes to leadership positions. I have learned how to deal with that and make peace with the fact that maybe it's the moment for like just taking that and understanding what it needs to be done and maybe be in that position of leadership. It's really interesting. I think that the most like the hardest part from it's like the group tasks, because we have to switch team members and deal with people that we may feel like they're like friends, but they will probably not be the best team partners, or they are not great friends, but they could be great team partners. So it's like learning how to like different types of persons and people and like interests meld together, because at the end we are like technically replicating how companies and do projects. So we have front-end people, we have back-end people, we have people who connect stuff, or we have a lot of people who want to do everything at the same time and they don't define, or they have like really different ideas on how to approach specific problems. So it can be really complex subject to deal with, especially because we are like starting doing the group test by now. So you're in the second one, right?
Yeah, I have found that the less people in a team, the easier it is to work with.
First rule of management.
Yes. I had a 3-person team and it was a nightmare to manage, especially because we had no idea how to manage a project. But now I'm in a team with just one other person, and it is a little easier to just communicate and have that relationship. And with my first team, I already knew them beforehand, and I think that made things more difficult. With the second person, they just approached me, were like, oh, I see you are like in that project, do you want to do the next project together? I was like, okay, just a leap of faith. And right now I think it is actually paying off.
Okay.
In our case, we actually don't have much issues between us, because we have a product owner that is actually ChatGPT. So he actually asks us for stuff. So it's like we know deadlines, time frames, we have the standings, and he asks us questions about what we should be doing right now. So they don't see it personally. It's like, it's not me. Look, it's ChatGPT is asking. So I'm just asking I'm just the conduit of our product owner. I'm not the one who asking you stuff. And we feel like it's kind of better right now because there is not something personal. So, but the deadlines is really hard to do. Because everybody's doing their own thing sometimes. I think that's a positive thing about the school. It's like you can explore and learn and do stuff, but also it's, for some people, can be a negative because they forget that they have to do the task too. So I have seen people making music. I have seen people learning how to play an instrument. There's good things about it, because you need to be something else than just coding. But sometimes you get too involved in the whole side quests and forget about the important things. So.
Yeah, it's really fun to walk around the school and see people constantly either cooking, sculpting with clay, as you said, making music. There are some people who are interested in plants.
I'm the ones that are cooking all the time. So
okay.
You also do kombucha.
Oh, I'm also making kombucha. Yes, but that's
So you do have a lot of side quests, and you both have actually chosen a very interesting side quest for yourselves. You were talking about leadership roles and how you are reluctant to accept leadership roles, but now you found yourself in another leadership role as you're both members of the student council of Jõhvi. Can you elaborate a bit more on what that actually entails?
Yeah, I'm also the president of the student
president.
council. Yeah.
Okay.
About leadership roles. Yeah.
The recent president here.
Yes. Recently. Yeah. It's just
this week, I think. Yeah.
A week. Yes. But yeah, I know it's a new thing for us. We are like one of the most recent additions from the student council. Like January, February.
January, something like that. Yes, we joined.
So, like, with the plan we have is like to change a little bit of the stuff that they were doing, mostly because they were focused only on like events that were like fun events for like on-site students or some off-site, but they don't
to relieve the stress, like on-site, and get people away from their computers.
Get people knowing other people, like start like mingling and make friends, stuff like that. But I think that we should also need to add some events that will make people help them learn easily, help them get more opportunities to find work, stuff like that, like workshops, talks, stuff like that, that not only the school and teams has to plan them, but we also can help them because it's something that the students need, and they will assist to the events because there's something that they really want to do. I guess everybody's there to switch their careers into tech. The more opportunities they get to do that, the better. So what we do normally is that we plan events. We help. We create this bridge that allows the students to communicate their issues with they have, maybe if they live on site with team and concerns or whatever, and we try to make the living space a little bit better for everybody.
Yeah. Well, we have recently, with the shift that you mentioned, we have been thinking about not just making the experience better for the students living on site in the Jõhvi building, but also to include everyone who studies off-site and the entire kood community in general.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you're doing this on-site or online?
We're on site.
You're on site actually in Jõhvi.
Living in the dormitories.
Living in the dormitories. How's that experience? And is that one of the reasons why you joined the student council, to improve that?
It played a part when there were some changes being made in the building. I felt like the student voices weren't heard as well as they could have been, or the input wasn't considered, or there wasn't enough communication. So that was part of it. But living in a dormitory, I guess it's fine. It's just fine. There are 5 people per room. Living with 3 people max is kind of fine for me. More than that gets a little crowded. But
yeah, I feel like in terms the dorms, I feel like for the student council purposes, if it's better if you're on site, if you're off-site, because we don't have that many events right now for off-site people. We don't have an off-site event manager right now. We're planning to fix that because there's 3 things that I want to make. One is fun, obviously fun events. Second is events that will teach you something. And the third one is an event that will make you stand from your desk and just go, touch grass, go pick mushrooms, go do something, make exercise, breathe outside. Air, proper air, because we don't do that much. So that's are the 3 things that I really want to do. And for that, we need an off-site manager. So normally we don't have, I prefer to have people on site because most events are in campus. So technically it will be better for us to have people that help there.
They know the workings of the school, and it is also easier to just have meetings and discuss everything.
Yeah.
Just walk around the school, say, oh, I need this, or we should do that.
Exactly.
Do you think that this is actually something that contributes towards your leadership skills as well, that will give you an advantage once you graduate from this school and start looking for employment?
I think so, yeah. I think so. I think it's more I really don't do it because I think it's going to affect my chances to find a job. I do it because I want to make a change and make stuff better for everybody. That's what I really want to do. I don't do it because it's going to be on the paper a recommendation at the end, because that's totally irrelevant for me. I really want to make the place better for everybody, That's it.
Well, in the beginning, I guess it kind of appealed to me to, have it on paper on my CV. That was a thing that I also considered when I joined the student council. But as time has moved forward and some issues have become more clear that need to be fixed or need to be communicated or need to be discussed, then that's not the focus anymore. I am more in it also to improve people's experience with the school and to give the school a better future, kind of, or try to help and direct it towards a way that the students want and need, kind of.
These are very noble causes. But speaking about the future, then, where do you see yourselves in 5 years' time?
Ladies first.
I hopefully will have a stable job in the tech industry. By that time, hopefully with enough experience that I could look for something, as I mentioned previously, look for something that combines my passion for design and interior architecture and architecture in general with with programming and tech. It could be some tool or game, I don't know, but something that would give me an outlet for the brain and the soul, I guess.
Nicely put. And you?
In 3 years, 4 years, I can apply for citizenship.
Oh.
So I've been living here for 6 already. 5 years already, yeah. Time passes really fast.
It does when you're having fun.
So yeah. So my plan is like to, because I just have my current employer is from Switzerland. So my plan is to, hopefully my employer doesn't listen to, so 5 years find an employer in Estonia. And just I want like really to settle in Estonia, like properly, become an Estonian, learn Estonian. Yes. I still haven't learned a lot, but I will. That's my promise. I will learn Estonian. Yeah.
That is a very beautiful thought and a wonderful note on which to conclude this interview. So thank you very much for coming here, and good luck with your ambitions to combine what your soul needs with what you actually want to do and what your brain can do. And I wish you nothing but the best of luck with your studies in Estonia and of the Estonian language. That's really going to be probably a harder challenge than actually coming up with some sort of coding projects and things like that. So really, thank you very much for being here today, and best of luck to you both. Thank you.
Thank you
for having us.
Hello and welcome to the studio. It's a great privilege to welcome here a true veteran of the industry, Andres. Hello and welcome. And could we please start by you explaining a few words about your background and introducing yourself?
Oh, dear me. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be able to contribute to what is arguably the one of the biggest changes in the way programming is taught in Estonia that I've ever experienced. My background is weird. I started out as a programmer, software developer, but I gradually understood that I'm a really bad software developer. I can't really do that very well, and moreover, when I was building first internet banks of Estonia at Hansabank, I suddenly realized that I don't understand what the customer is on about. So customer was talking about internal rates of return and all banking stuff, and I was like clueless about this. So I actually came to Estonian Business School and got myself an MBA. And the same process repeated itself when I was at architecture team lead at Skype. Not chief architect. This is that I'm not gonna take that honor because that's Jaan Tallinn and Ahti Einla, and I'm not close. But I was an architecture team lead, and I also realized that I actually don't understand the customer, and maybe if we have like these hundreds of millions of customers, maybe the decisions we make should be based on something really. And so I went to MIT, studied systems architecture there, and I've been practicing it for the past 10-15 years because in my experience as a software architect, in the past 25 years, and I've thought about this hard, there has been exactly one situation, one scenario, one case where I was invited in to solve a technical problem where there actually was a technical problem, where the engineers really were stumped. And luckily I was able to help them. There was a configuration issue that we figured out and all was good. everything else is you go in and the engineers tell you within 15 minutes what's wrong, but something prevents them from actually solving that problem, whether they don't have enough time, or whether they're swamped with new requests, or whatever that might be. But there's an organizational issue that prevents them from getting things done. And so for the past, let's say, 10 years, my focus has been on how do I make it so that the programmers, the engineers in the organization can focus on their jobs and get their things done. So my background is in programming. I've been writing code for the larger part of my career, but currently I'm working on something very, very different in some ways, but very close in some other ways.
Okay, but what about your first encounters with coding and programming?
Oh dear, that was when the Earth was young and the moon was bright and the grass was green and men were made of metal and computers were also made of metal and everything was metal. My first experience with a computer was a Soviet invention called a hut, or as we called it, agat, which was a clone of Apple II, if I'm not mistaken, to the point that it actually contained Apple chips from where the logos had been scratched off with a knife. It was a truly horrible machine. And I don't really remember how I learned programming. The only thing that I do remember was that our first programming teacher that we got in our school had this peculiar method of teaching programming where she would withhold information from us. Like, she would not tell us how to do certain things. And that was like completely counterintuitive. Of course, we went and figured things out ourselves. And by the time I graduated from high school, I had the keys to the computer class, and I'm pretty sure our group was like, we knew more about the computers than our teacher did, because teenagers have a lot of time on their hands, a lot of time, and a lot of interests. So that's where I got started. The important thing to understand of that time is that there was nothing there. Like the computer was there, but there was no software, there was no internet, there was no nothing, there was no software industry. It was Soviet Union. So what do you do with that computer? You play games. What games? Like word processing, mathematics, like everything you had to build yourself, which meant two things: that A, we had no shortage of practical problems to solve, and B, the barrier of entry to that world was very low. Like, if you nowadays, I don't know, take Minecraft, like, it's amazing, and like no single individual can sit down and create something like that from scratch, not even close. But we had nothing. And so even if you made a very simple game that just randomly answered stupid questions from your students, it was amusing, and you got immediately like this experience of success. Like, I made something that I amused my friends. Like, awesome.
So this is very similar to actually what kood.tech coding schools are offering to their students as well, which is learning by playing and developing games.
Oh, yes,
and also, as you mentioned, that your teacher had a peculiar method about it, then I think quite a lot of focus was actually on peer-to-peer learning, in the sense that you actually learned from your friends.
That was the thing. As I said, there was no other information sources available. And this actually created this really awesome community where knowledge was the best currency there was. Again, like all the computers came without any manuals. There are no books available. Like, there's nothing there. The only source of information is what you get from your peers. I had my own little black book. I know that everybody else had a version of that as well. Not in the computer, because that's like, you don't have access to a computer, right? You just don't. Computers are rare, so you write everything down in a small like notebook, and you trade that information with others, and that created this very, very cool kind of environment where knowledge was everything, and everybody was like highly motivated to remain within that community. which meant that everybody was behaving. Because if you just like lied to people or behaved in a way that it was perceived that you're not friendly, you got thrown out. If you got thrown out, you lost access to all of that, like that knowledge, that trade, that network of like information exchange. And that was very valuable. Nobody wanted that to happen. And that was very, very much like peer-to-peer learning, yes.
Okay, but so your career has spanned several decades, and you've obviously seen the development or the evolution of the junior developer or any software developer for that matter. So how have you actually perceived the change happening over the course of, let's say, the past 40 years?
You make me sound very, very old. Rightly so, partially, because I started I started coding when I was quite young. I think that what people have always done is that they have made computers more complicated in a quest to make them simpler, if that makes sense. Because when computers were first invented, they were programmed by just literally moving wires around. That was too difficult, so people moved to punch cards. That was too difficult, so people invented operating systems. And on and on and on and on and on. Since dawn of time, we've been kind of wrapping layer upon layer upon layer upon layer of software and new hardware and software and more software and more software on top of the basic computer hardware. When I started out, and I have interviewed my colleagues, I have even a book about this, and there's a podcast somewhere in the internet. But basically, when I talked to members of my generation, they understood their computer to the hardware level. Like they were able to debug hardware. If something was wrong, they were able to do something with the hardware to fix it. They understood it like to the literal transistors. And that time has gone. Like that's just not a thing anymore. However, the latest shift to AI is kind of bringing this back a little bit, because like 5-10 years ago, a lot of your time went into not, okay, so how do I make this happen? It went to, so in this particular framework, how do I make this thing happen? In this particular language, in this particular instance, like what is the exact syntax? And that was very, very, very tedious. But AI is now taking that away. So I think that there has been over the past 40 years, the shift has been away from towards writing code from actual programming, because those are different disciplines. And now AI allows us to sort of shift the focus back to actually programming, which means explaining the computer what do you want to do. And that is a very, very, very tricky thing. That's much, much, much trickier than people think, and this is the art of programming, actually. Not the ability to write perfectly aligned lines of code in your chosen language. That's the easy part.
So it seems that during the course of simplifying technology, we've actually made it far too complex for the human mind to actually be able to grasp it in all its details and intricate little minute moments that there are. So that's why we actually do need artificial intelligence. That we shouldn't. Are we overreacting to the dawn of artificial intelligence in a way?
I would say that yes. From one hand, we have added too many layers of complexity, and we should be going back to our roots. I have had experiences where I've explained, 1993, I spent an afternoon reading a specification of HTTP protocol, the protocol that underpins all the web. And just last year, I think I had an experience where I explained the concept that I learned over that one afternoon in 1993 to a couple of young developers, experienced ones, young, but still have several years, professional programming experience. And it felt like a superpower. That should not be a thing.
Okay.
I lament that situation. So from one hand, yes, we have made the complexity too much. But again, from the other, AI can kind of help us take some of that away, but like we should really be going back to more towards simpler things rather than trying to kind of alleviate that complexity with adding more layers of complexity via AI, if that makes sense.
It does make sense in a bizarre way, but at the same time, what it seems to be that you're saying that is that we do need people who are capable of understanding the finer details and the nuances and the more complex technical matters, who are technically senior developers.
Mm-hmm.
But in order to have those senior developers, they need to come from somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
We need to have junior developers for that as well.
Yeah. And this is where like the fact appears that is not entirely pleasant. And that is the fact that to be good at anything, to be good at programming, to be good at making podcasts or playing guitar or whatever it is that you do, you need to grow and as a person. You need to be a good person first, and then you can become a good guitar player or model or podcast host or whatever. If you want to gain the experience that it takes for you to become a senior developer, you must be able to resist the temptation to outsource your thinking to AI. You must be able to have that interest, that drive, that even commitment that I will go and I will understand this to the depths. I will peel away these layers of abstraction and I will look behind that curtain and then the next one and then the next one, and that is a lifetime of study. If you are committing to that, then building that experience and growing from senior to from a junior to a senior developer is entirely possible. Because if you are, I don't know, writing your home like hobbyist, or you are writing code for Project Eola, which is one of the programming competitions out there, or solving the Christmas event calendar of code, that's an annual event. Like, nobody's forcing you to use AI there, but it does take commitment, because it is so much easier to just use AI and not think. But if you have the drive, if you have the interest, then you think, then you spend the time, and then you become very slowly over time a senior developer.
Well, what other kind of suggestions or recommendations would you have for people who are currently in the very first stages of becoming a junior developer, or are even considering a career in software development?
My recommendation is to think a little bit about what is it that interests you with computers. Like, why are you in this? Because there are programmers and there are programmers and programmers and there are programmers. At Skype, we had the web shop that you could log in and buy Skype credit. And the core library of the peer-to-peer network, in terms of lines of code, they were both about the same size. But the complexity, the type of complexity of each was vastly different. The web store was a tangle of really, really complicated business requirements, but from a coding and programming perspective, it was fairly simple. Whereas the peer-to-peer network was very, very, very complicated from the algorithms and data structures and cryptography and all of that perspective, but all had very simple business functionality. And there's everything in between. And now, if you want to go one way, then you go and read the Knuth Bible, which is the core text of programming, and you do that. If your preference is solving, or if you like solving the actual functional problems people have, then your path is different. But in order to sort of pick that path, you must deal with that problem of picking that path by thinking about it, by trying things out in different ways. But to understand that programming can be three completely different disciplines depending on how it's applied and in which context it happens.
Okay. Well, I can assume that you've probably done quite a lot of recruiting over the years then. You have probably a keen eye for talent as well. And so how do you recognize talent? I mean, what are the characteristics that stand out, that make you realize that, yes, of all the candidates, this is probably the person who will probably have a stellar career in software development.
I don't know that because very often you can't really tell. I had the privilege, and I do mean this seriously. I was the first boss of Taavet Hinrikus back in the day. And Taavet was my first subordinate back in the day. Looking back, there was very, very, very few signs of what was to come. Which means I don't know. Lots of people developing in lots of different directions, and everybody has their own path. However, what I do know is that unless you have the interpersonal skills, the ability to work in a team, the ability to have this good attitude, to adjust your attitude as it's necessary, without these soft skills, whatever amazing hard skills you might have, those are not going to be applicable in a team setting. And everything is done nowadays in a team setting. So you must be able to work together with a team. Again, reaching back to Skype, because that's we're going to have a party celebrating the end of Skype very soon. But the Skype core team had worked together since the 80s. Together. Before they, that's 90s, that's more than 20 years by the time they created Skype. As a team. That takes ability way beyond the amazing programming abilities that these people have. And I think that is the key thing. Programming you can learn. You can learn new languages. You can learn the art of conceptualizing complex problems in your head. You can do that. Attitudes, team work abilities, these sorts of things, you need to grow. That's a different thing.
That's really fascinating. And I think on that note, I think it would be appropriate to conclude this interview. Thank you very much for joining us in the studio today. This has been a serious eye-opener in some ways. So thank you for your time, and wish you nothing but the very best for your future. And hopefully one day we'll see you here again. So thank you.
Surely. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Koodcast. We hope you enjoyed today's show, and please make sure to visit Kood's website for further reading and other episodes. Remember, it's kood.tech. Once again, kood.tech. Be seeing you.